Raila has two options. One, to go in history as a statesman by accepting the results of this election and promising to defend the Kenyan people where the government fails. That will give him a chance to just reignite his energy, the small energy that is there, so that he still remains relevant. But if he goes the route of objecting the results and going to the Supreme Court, it will taint him as a complainant, as someone who is never satisfied with the processes that are there. Because honestly, IEBC has gone outside its way to ensure that Kenya has a free, fair, and verifiable election. And honestly, across the board, from the observers, from even the voter himself, you can see the tone that, yes, IEBC this time round, they did a free, fair, and verifiable election. And for Raila to dispute this makes him look like a complainant, of which he's a statesman. And we need to own it up and say, yes, Raila Amolo Odinga has done a lot for this country. And it's about time as a country we celebrate him as an icon for this nation. But again, in regards to close, yes, too close but far, the basic thing is this. Raila Amolo Odinga made some grave mistakes. Mistakes that William Ruto was not ready to make during these campaigns. One, it's in regards to the national presidential debate. These 200,000 votes that Raila missed, actually, they are the few who are not convinced to vote, the undecided vote, and they came out and voted for the other guy because he showed up for the job and he presented himself. And you see, these mistakes are coming to haunt Raila Amolo Odinga because honestly speaking, if Raila had a strategy team that thought through everything, then he would have maybe come out as a victor. But small mistakes that he did have costed him, he did dearly, and they have benefited because a simple effect of this presidential debate, you know, His Excellency William Ruto, back in 2017, they missed out on the debate. But in 2022, he showed up because he remembered, I made a mistake back in 2017, and here I am, I need to get this vote for the undecided. And yes, he beat Raila Amolo Odinga hands down. Something else I just want to comment in regards to this particular milestone that we've made. The women of this country are the biggest leaders, the winners in this particular election, because you can realize it's not about the party, it's not about the community you come from, but across board, from all areas of this country. Even in the Maasai land, we have seen a woman being elected as a member of parliament. That shows that women in this country, we appreciate them, and we want to give them an opportunity and a space, not just to as a marginalized community, but as able and capable leaders of this country moving forward.
I mean, Wakili, thanks. Omenya, there's something Wakili has repeated, Raila making some very grave mistakes. Right. One of them is pointing out is missing the presidential debate. Right. Not too sure whether at that point it could have swayed the number of votes. We're not too sure. Maybe it did. Yeah. But looking at the life after this announcement yesterday of Raila Odinga, trying it the 5th time, missing it. Yes. Do you agree with what Wakili is saying? He made some grave mistakes getting into this election, and then what happens to Raila, whether he goes to the Supreme Court or not?
Yeah, I think this is very interesting, Dennis, and I would like to look at it a little bit differently. We have a society that celebrates winners regardless of how they win, and we have a society that punishes losers regardless of how they lose. and that is, you know, even in school, there are people who have been cheating in exams. And when they get first class, we celebrate them. And the people who are working very, very hard, you know, when they fail to get in there, you know, we are there saying, you're lazy. You know, you didn't do your homework. And they did. They did, but they still failed. My point is that whether we like it or not, people, the analysts, the armchair critique, will actually be pointing out how Ruto did it well and how he succeeded. And whether we like that or not, that's how our society is organized. And for the loser, we'll be pointing out how Raila missed it, how he did all sorts of things. That is how our society is organized, and that is very unfortunate. One of the things that I've said over and over again, we are very bad at managing the so-called failure. or even perception of failure. I was privileged to have been part of the last great President Obama's campaigns. And I was in the US, in Atlanta, Georgia, and in Washington, D.C. I remember that president, you know, telling his base and voters in terms of build up to the election. He was preparing them for failure. He told them that this election, we are most likely going to lose it. He wasn't even saying it was too close, because he said it'll go to the wire. We'll struggle until the last day. But he kept sending this message to his base that we can actually lose this election. Of course, he achieved the exact opposite, that his base turned out in huge numbers, the invisible voters appeared, and Obama carried the day. But if Obama had lost, his base was actually ready for that loss, because he had prepared them over and over again that this is actually a possible outcome in an election. What do we do? Here, even you know, candidates who are getting 1% or 0% are telling their base that they're going to win. They're not preparing the base for any possibility of a contrary result. And I think this is something that we need to build as a culture. In fact, for me, it's not a failure. I teach at the university. Some of the most devastated students are the students who have been told by their supervisors that they're going to get a first class. And then they end up with an upper second. They commit suicide. But the students who expected to fail and they get a pass are celebrating, and people come with matatus that, you know, this guy has a degree and so on and so forth. And it is actually about management of failure. It is about, you know, developing a narrative outside there, telling lies that you eventually start believing yourself, while you know that they're actually lies. So I think my own advice to the political class is very simple. That, look here, when you get outside there, be ready for all the outcomes. You know, prepare yourself for all the outcomes. That's what great leadership calls of you and your people. Manage your people and so on, so that when the result is not exactly what you expect, then that result will be acceptable. I can tell you, I personally have prepared my family, and I can say that on air, for the outcome. We were on one side, but my children actually knew and expected a contrary result should that be the case. And I don't feel devastated. And this has happened to me in the past. In the past, we were celebrating and we're saying, look here, we're going to win. And when we didn't win, this just didn't affect me as the father in that family. It affected my entire family. It's like we literally needed to go for counseling. We need to get into this space where we are able to manage failure also, perceived or real.
Professor, talking about managing failure, Caroline.
Yes.
Raila Odinga made a very daring pledge in his last rally and said that he's willing to accept and ready to accept the outcome of the election. But the key word he used is fairly.
Fairly, yes. There was a caveat. So,
but he also said his vote cannot be stolen.
So yes, and as Prof is saying, he also said his votes cannot be stolen. At some point in the week, we saw elected leaders being summoned to KICC, and I remember very well Martha Karua stating, and I quote, "There is no way the count can be against us." You remember she said that. Going back to the question about, you know, too close yet too far and things of that nature, I remember tweeting and asking and saying, it's very clear on the Kenya Kwanza side, there is robust attempt to listen to intellectuals, to listen to experts, and there are, you know, there are intellectuals, experts of different fields advising the Kenya Kwanza, you know, alliance. And I remember asking, who is doing that on the Azimio side? And I remember being dismissed and being told, don't worry, we have the people from NAC. And I said NAC was 2002. That's 20 years ago. I mean, how are we reconciling that the problems of 2022 and 2002 are different? Who are these people? And I was told, don't worry, you'll see them when we win, you'll see them. Which goes back to the point that Prof was making. And for me, my main questions are about what happens going forward, even beyond the so-called inacceptance of results and or going to the Supreme Court to lodge an appeal there. For me,